The Jamb policy meeting held in Abuja today ended with some important fallouts, some of which includes finalizing the cut-off marks for the 2025-2026 admission exercise and other admission policies for tertiary institutions, setting benchmarks for upcoming academic year, as well as establishing relevant policies and regulations for 2025-2026 admission cycle. Among key decisions taken, however, is setting a minimum admission age for tertiary institutions at 16 years, as against 18, according to the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa. Any admission conducted outside the JAMB's central admissions processing system, CAPS, is illegal, and tertiary institutions that go contrary to these directives may have their licenses withdrawn. Well, these issues will form the nucleus of our discussion on Nigeria Today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nigria Clinton. Now, to have the conversation with us tonight are two gentlemen, one of which is the Secretary General, Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities, Professor Haruna. Well, Professor Andrew Haruna, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Good evening.
And also with us here is a renowned educationist, Dr. Philip John Hayab. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I'll start with you, Prof. I know you were there, but then again, we want to hear from you. How would you assess the entire policy meeting that held today?
Well, if you ask me by assessment, I can say it's excellent. Excellent in the sense that as a former Vice Chancellor, I have attended this kind of meeting several times. And this one is revolutionary. Revolutionary in the sense that, one, there is a major shift to change of age of admission into the university. Secondly, the fact that there is a sanction not mentioned by the Jamb registrar. I know the Jamb registrar is a courageous person, somebody who is frank and direct. If I could use his phrase, he said, I am not a registrar who tells lies. And now the minister has come to say, anybody who violated the admission policies, the admission criteria, there will be sanction. And definitely is coming from the highest level of authority. So in the sense, I can say this policy meeting of today is like going to the Supreme Court based on the issues that were raised and also based on the verdicts that were mentioned.
Now, Dr. Hayab, talk to us. I know the last time you were here, or the other time you were here, that we talked about this, the age, you know, of getting into the university. You know, I remember vividly that you were not on support of, you know, having, you know, a particular, like saying you have to get to 18 years for you to get into the university. So what were the, you know, the key, what stood out for you really in this meeting?
Well, as Professor Andrew Hanna has said, we will give credit to the kind of proceedings that took place, particularly the outcome, some of the outcomes, because there are some that I disagree with. I still hold this opinion that the idea of the age bracket, instead of focusing on the child's ability, is something that we need to look into. It is good to put an age bracket to say, okay, you must have attended a certain age. Then the issue of exceptional students, who is also another thing. Some of these learners at 16 might behave better than those who are 18. So the point is that the overemphasis, I would say, on age and instead of character and learning is not something that we should be focused on in the 21st century. Yes, in other parts of the world, there are ages that children cannot, candidates cannot enroll into the university. But then we also have young people that we've seen who have even acquired a PhD before they turn 20. So what is all this? So I would rather that we focus our conversations on the ability. As a teacher around in Nigeria, I've attended meetings and somebody will just come to you and say, I'm a prof. And then in the conversation, the person doesn't really exude the kind of qualities that a prof should have. So that is giving more credence to qualification statuses instead of what a person can do. So I still advocate that when we consider the age that the child goes to school, we should also talk about the ability of the child. How about those who scored more points, who are less than 18 and 16 in this case, in comparison to those who are 24 and above who couldn't score even the minimum point required?
Okay, now back to you, Prof. I know some of the one of the fallout was the reviewing of the cutoff mark for schools.
Yeah.
Now for the university, it was pegged on 150.
Yeah.
Now we have some colleges, maybe colleges of nursing for 140, and the rest of them. No, some have said, will this not kind of promote academic laziness on the part of the students here?
Well, I don't think so. You see, the cutoff point does not necessarily mean that every university must admit at 150.
Okay.
A particular university will say, well, our cutoff point is 180. What Jamb is saying and what this policy statement is making is that you cannot admit below 150. That is what is the key point, the takeaway there.
Yeah.
But a university will say, we are not going to admit anybody in our university unless you have 200 points. It's left for the Senate of the university, because the Senate is the highest body that regulates academic policies. So Jamb just gives you a kind of a roadmap and does not dictate. And if a university says we are going to admit 151, so be it. You have not violated what the policy says. And it is very important that people understand this. Now, when you go to colleges of education and other polytechnics, 140 and the rest, so also...
We even have the one of 100.
Yeah, well, the point is
also,
good.
Yeah.
You see, the thing when you liberalize things, it's very easy to make a choice. Okay? You see, the point here is that the fact that somebody has 150 does not necessarily mean that he's a bad student. Okay? I repeated WAEC because I did not pass my WAEC well. Okay? But at the end of the day, when I found myself in the university with the right environment, you see, I picked up, and today I'm a professor and a former vice chancellor. So if I look at my career, those who were teaching me how to write or pass mathematics, whom I copy from them, did not go beyond secondary school or primary school. So there are certain factors which we must actually include in terms of the child's development. The environment is critical, the type of teachers who teach is critical, and also the facilities around in where the child receives his or her own lessons.
Now, before I go to a doc, you know, Jamb also reiterated the mandatory use of CAPS, the Central Admission Processing Systems. Now the question is, are institutions, Nigerian institutions, are they fully capable, you know, of handling CAPS without disruptions?
Well, when you say capable, you see, again, let me go back to the environment. The fact that there is a system set up, every day we aspire to excel. If we have some challenges, it does not mean that the system is not good enough. So the Nigerian university environment is capable. But Jamb has set up all the necessary structures. Jamb has invested a lot in making sure that this does not fail. But in the event something happened, a kind of a hiccup in between, it doesn't mean that we have failed.
Have they really been complying before now?
Well, there are some universities that have not complied in the past. But now with this policy statement, you know, there was a time when everybody was given some kind of amnesty. Okay? Amnesty in the sense that if you have admitted without going through the process and you are able, you come and declare, okay, you declare your weaknesses, Jamb will filter it out and see whether you deserve to be, you know, given this amnesty. But after this statement, anyone who does it, he or she has himself to be blamed. Any vice chancellor or rector or provost who goes beyond what has been mentioned, he will face this sanction, definitely. So we are prepared for it. If we are not prepared for it, I'm sure the minister or Jamb will not have made this.
Because all stakeholders were there when the policy statement was made.
Of course, and nobody
so
rejected to the
they'll
best
be ready to wield the big stick, anybody that falls.
Of course, and if you don't have a sanction, people will just keep on doing what they feel like. So there must be some kind of order and sanity, and CAPS has brought that into university admission.
Okay, now back to you, Doc. How would you rate the Jamb Central admission processing system in terms of transparency and equity in admissions over the last few years?
From what I know, the CAPS system is now something we can't run away from. So at the Kaduna State College of Education, we were running a program which is affiliated to Ahmadu Bello University, and then we were allowed to admit students. When it was time for them to mobilize to go for Jamb, they didn't have this the Jamb registration. When it was time for them to go for NYC, it became a huge issue. Some were delayed over time, verification. So since there is already a system which you have to produce your Jamb admission verification and all that before you even go to serve, why take somebody through the back door? The best would be to go through CAPS so that these people, these candidates, once they get to the university, is a seamless time for them to stay in the university, and when it is time for them to go for service, they go for service. It's not good to do back and forth. So I would say that we've actually come a long way. Jamb is doing its best, maybe also because of the number. But since Jamb has come out to say, if you don't follow the protocol, we will withdraw your license, it's an evidence that the Jamb is prepared. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. If in the event where Jamb does not keep up to its expectation, then we can also call out the issue. So, but for now, I would say that the system is not doing very badly, and then there's room for improvement. It is said that one of the largest rooms in the world is always the room for improvement. So Jamb is improving, and let's give her the benefit of the doubt so that this system will come to stay. It's better that way, that everybody goes through one door, at least so that we know the authenticity of the candidates who end up in our tertiary institutions in the country.
Okay, now I wanted to talk, speak to this issue, Prof. We talk about writing Jamb. After the Jamb, we still go back to the universities to write another exam. I know back in the days it wasn't like that in our days. After you write Jamb and you get your score, you are sure to get admission to the university. But it's not really like that. No. Now with this, how does this play out in all of these policies and all of that?
You see, one of the things when you deal with the university is autonomy. Autonomy. Jamb has come with CAPS, and as my colleague mentioned, CAPS has sanitized the admission process. Now, whatever decision we take is data-driven, is scientifically proven, okay? And in my interaction with the minister and also the Jamb registrar, they just don't want to talk from the blues. Everything must be data-proven, scientifically proven. Now, when you leave the process, Jamb, and come into the university, because of the autonomy law, each university has a right now to come up with policies within the university to decide how they could admit their own students, as long as they don't violate the Jamb policy statement. So if they said we are going to run a post-UTME and they made it clear and open, transparent, so be it. If another university says it will not do post-UTME, so be it. But the critical thing, always remember, the Senate of the university is the highest body, and it is the body that regulates whatever happens in terms of admission of students.
Okay, we'll take a short break now. The conversation will continue after this break. Don't go away.
The implementation of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow under digital economy for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different?
We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that our questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today. We're looking at the fallout from the Jamb policy meeting that was held today. And of course, I have here in the studio 2 gentlemen. Now, Dr. Hayab, we've talked so much about these policies. Now, what would be the impact on school leavers and their chances of securing admission into universities?
I think that's where the big question is. So just before we go to the studio, I tried to Google to find out how many students, for instance, among the Valley University's area, admitted last year. And from what I used to know, I think it's still the case. ABU's area admits the highest number of students in the whole of this country in terms of all the other universities because of the number of departments and also the space. So if ABU is not able to take up to 50,000 students who pass Jamb in a year, how many other universities do we have? As at the day the Jamb results was out before the mop-up exams, we had over 400,000 students who had scored beyond the cutoff mark that has been agreed today. Right. So if you are not able to take this 400,000 plus the group that would have passed during the mop-up, which I think would also be a reasonable number, you would leave a backlog of candidates who are coming from secondary school next year, and these ones who couldn't make it to tertiary institutions this year waiting. One of the problems is that the Jamb cutoff mark already has created a parity by saying you have 100, you go to the polytechnics. You have 100, you go to the colleges of education. A point I've always never supported, because the colleges of education are where we produce our teachers. We shouldn't be taking 100. Maybe 200 should be the cutoff mark for that. But that will be when teaching becomes a very good paying job. That is another story for another day,
right?
Yeah, so I do think that the secondary school leavers have a huge, these decisions that we take now and whatever happens this year has a huge impact. Because the number that wrote Jamb in 2024, that sat for Jamb in 2024, is not up to the number that sat for Jamb in 2025. And there's a likelihood the number that will sit for Jamb in 2026 will be higher than the number in 2025. That is already an impact. It means that you have narrow opportunities leaving secondary school to make it to the university, even when you score a very good cutoff mark. So, like Prof said, yes, Jamb has said you cannot admit less than 150, and then in some states, they can produce more than 100,000 students who have coded at 150, and you don't have spaces for them. You are going to leave a backlog, and this backlog will affect the opportunities or the prospects for the incoming, for the next candidates, and those are the ones in secondary school. I would say that I would prefer that we actually raise the bar. That is one thing. When I got into the university, it was 160 that was my cutoff mark. I have argued that why should my own child be asked to go to university at 150? I expect that my child should go higher than...
The bar should be raised.
Yes. If that is not the case, then I think we're invariably saying that the standards of education is falling, and we are supporting the failure, the fall. I believe that we shouldn't be doing that. Raise the bar for this, so that these kids will wake up knowing fully that it is no longer business as usual.
Prof, Doc is saying raise the bar.
Well, I totally subscribe to this if you want good quality. But it doesn't mean that if you have 150, you are not a good student. Yeah. You see, we got to be very careful about, going to the university. All right? If you ask me my personal opinion, it's not that every child must go to university. You see, polytechnics colleges of education are also excellent places to go. Now, if you go to university, university is very theoretical. We have our own culture, and you need to be among the brightest to be in the university. When people mention university, university is an environment everyone wants to be associated with. But then if you want to be associated with the university, are you an excellent person in terms of your brain capacity and work? Now, well, this liberalization, it can be filtered easily within the system. However, admission cannot be given to everyone because of what? Infrastructure, lack of staff in the universities, and even if the staff are there, the welfare of the staff are not well looked after, and if you don't provide this to the best brains of your society, definitely you will have mumu people ruling you. That is just what it is. If you want to see the quality of a nation, you look at the quality of their teachers, the quality of the professors there. And if I'm a professor, I'm teaching today just because I love the job, not because I'm rewarded well. And the fact is that every professor, every university lecturer, every lecturer in the College of Education or Polytechnic, they're internationally mobile staff. They're not like regular civil servants. They are mobile, highly mobile. If they are not employed in Nigeria, they can be employed in Kenya, in Ghana, wherever. If not so, why are other countries taking the best brains? We train them and they move out. So the university admission and the kind of training we provide, even though there is a kind of a cutoff point, it doesn't mean that anybody below that 150 is not.
That's not the measure of intelligence.
Yeah, no,
it's not the measure of intelligence,
so.
right?
Because some may even go to write the exam, they may fall ill. Some due to fear. Some facing this equipment, these machines.
Some go blank.
So fine. So there are so many factors. However, in some developed societies, now with AI, you find that some chips are attached to individual's child in the classroom for the teacher to monitor the level of perception as he teaches. He may discover that, oh, out of 50, only 20 are above 80, understanding what he or she is teaching. And then maybe the rest, they are below 50.
Okay, yes.
So at the end of the class, they can isolate the set and move. But here is all. We lump everything together due to lack of facility.
Do you understand? Yes.
So, fine.
Yes, sir.
So this is the point. We have to look at so many factors. Let me also emphasize this. The cut of 50 or 100 or whatever, the policymakers, researchers might have been carried out. It is not just coming out of the blues. So everything which is based on research and data, scientifically proven, let's give it a chance. We can still review it.
Now, at the end of the day, what we are talking about is the quality of education.
Yes.
We want to improve the quality of our education in the country. So, what is the way forward beyond this policy meeting? What is the way forward?
Yeah, so beyond this policy meeting by Jamb with the vice chancellors and heads of institutions, polytechnic and universities, I would say that as a nation, we need to go back to the drawing board. I've always said is that in a society where excellence is not the mark of honor, this should be the hallmark, then we will run the danger of developing a country or of running a country where mediocres are the ones in the helm of affairs. And it's not just about governance. We're talking about they are the ones who will gain will be employed to teach at the institutions, and then you have a problem. I do believe that our quality of education matters. Once we don't work on the quality of our education, Nigeria's progress may continue to dwindle.
Yeah, I wanted us to actually touch the awards, but we seem to be out of time. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program. We have the Secretary General, Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities, Professor Andrew Haruna. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And of course, we had an educationist, a renowned educationist, Dr. Philip John Hayab. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing Prof to
Thank you for meeting my brother.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you for being part of the program. I'm your carrier, Clinton. Goodbye.